Hello, welcome to the Dating Unsettled show where we dare to date differently. Let's see your best Dating Unsettled dance. Go. Okay. We're getting some shoulders.
I'm sitting down. This is kind of hard, you know?
Yeah.
All I got are shoulders right now.
Yeah. When I'm sitting, I kind of have this little bop going. Okay. Yeah. Wow. That was definitely on beat. Well, welcome.
Ooh.
How are we feeling today?
Not too bad. It's great. Finally, the sun's out in California out here. It's been raining for a couple of weeks. It's still raining if you're looking for a job, though, and you were laid off recently, so kind of in that storm. But other than that, you know, just keeping it real. How about you?
Keeping it real. Well, that sounds like a straight man if I've ever heard one. Hey, everybody. I'm your host, JoyOfodu. If you're wondering who you're listening to, it's Shayne. Shayne is in the zone today to provide us with insights from the straight male community. This episode is called Straight Man Learning. And I called it that because you said that as a straight man, you learn from the show. Is that right or is that left?
No, it's 100% right. It's a good way to learn what not to do, how not to present yourself, or just to hear different perspectives too. Because at the end of the day, that's kind of what it is. Just a too kind. All right.
Don't get too comfortable. That wasn't for you. That was for me. I love that I've created content that is so transcendent across gender lines that even men are listening and are like, ooh, I can learn something from this. I can learn how to date women by following Joy's content. I love that for me.
Tools of the trade right there. It's just,
tools of the trade. Is there a vocab toolbox that straight men carry around?
I'm not in the Manosphere, so I have to cross-reference that with their glossary. But I'm not associated with that.
What's the Manosphere?
The Manosphere is this. It's not like real. It's more just like a term to refer to a collection of creators right now who are advancing. Yeah, advancing sort of that hyper masculine rhetoric, you know, the whole like masculinity is under attack. Why can't men be men? Like if you're straight, you're marginalized. You know, all this stuff that's just coming out there, and being driven towards a specific need that may be reflected in society, but they're just going about it in a way that I just don't really think is very helpful. Yeah, I know, it's crazy. And I don't know where Manosphere comes from, but that's what people refer to it as, like on Reddit and stuff like that.
Ugh. I
know.
I've been hearing the term red pill, and I actually use it without really knowing what it means. So that sounds pretty red pill to me.
Similar. There's a lot of overlap there, yeah, where it's like, wake up, people, see the bigger picture. Why should I need to change to fit societal tastes that have also changed? Like, why can't it change for me? You know, that whole like self-centered, very arrogant sort of approach to things.
So since this has crossed your timeline, it must be that you were looking into similar things. Do you believe that straight men are under attack right now?
I think that it is easy for younger men who maybe don't have the proper context to feel that way, right? If you're like 14, 15, you don't really know the history of like a lot of this stuff that's been going on behind you. All you know is that you probably go online and you see jokes about straight white men this, straight white men that, but you don't really understand where that comes from. So you're sort of just like, why am I getting attacked for et cetera, X, Y, and Z? So then that frustration ends up getting pandered to a lot by these Manosphere type of creators who are like, you're frustrated, and it's because this is wrong with the world and this is wrong with the world. You need to be this way. So very impressionable people. But no, I don't think traditional masculinity is under attack necessarily. I think that the world and the landscape is changing. But I think like the core tenets of what people describe as like masculine can still exist in that world, but maybe just take a different form, be a little bit more considerate. You know, it's just like many things that are happening. You gotta just adapt.
And it's crazy because I watch the internet that the young boys, girls, and people are growing up into, and I feel similarly concerned that it's almost like if an alien dropped into our world and it's like, you know, explain this to the aliens, the way that women are venting about their experiences might cause men who are interested in women, or young men or boys who are interested in women, to be very resentful and like automatically be on the defense and kind of feel like the enemy, which is a very scary prospect. I don't want little boys to grow up thinking that we are their enemy, you know, that we're not all trying to like seek partnership with each other. The heterosexual community is really in shambles, but we know this. I wanted to dive in with you to talk about like exactly what you feel like you've learned from the show as an unsettler yourself. We love a male unsettler. Or from my comedy. Like, what do you feel like you picked up that's helped you so far in dating?
Oh, well, one thing I noticed for sure, though, is that, like I mentioned before, there's just a variety of perspectives and preferences, right? And that's kind of what it all essentially comes down to in a lot of individual cases, right? Societally, different story. Like the factors that drive societal dating and what we value in society are different. But when it becomes, in the case of you and somebody else, you have preferences how you see the world, they have preferences how they see the world, and it's just about, is there a connection or not? And can there be a connection or not, right? So it's like step 1 and 2. Like maybe there's not one now. Could there be? Could there not be? Okay, no, I'm done. So I think a lot of that is reflected in your comedy, and that's kind of why I like it so much, is because there's a lot of truth to what's going on there, right? There's a lot of relatable experiences there. I've failed and succeeded in dating across various dimensions and ways and degrees. So I feel very heard seeing your content.
Yay. I'm glad you feel heard by the failures. Talk to me about the failures. What do you feel like you failed in?
So again, it goes back to, I think with the issue that a lot of young men might be experiencing right now, is that it's just insecurity. I think that's like the biggest thing for me is really you're getting in your own way a lot of the time. You know, and you can't really communicate in a way that's essentially healthy. So instead of being insecure that maybe I don't got much money right now and I can't, afford to whatever, I do something to sabotage that event that we were going to have to pay for or something like that, right? There's a lot of that goes on generally, just like in the background. And I'm talking like 10 years ago, right? I'm a changed person now.
Oh yeah. You're a changed man. You've completely grown from this experience, right?
Or, just men not being able to say, hey, when you said that, it hurt my feelings. Just stuff like that. Just having those sort of emotional shortcomings, I would even say. Just that emotional maturity, I think. That's kind of been in my way a lot of my life, I would say.
Yeah, the 10 years ago, not now.
The 10 years ago, not now. No, not now.
Yeah.
I'm good. I'm Gucci now.
Okay, give people the age, sex, location. So, like, it's funny because we've made it this far and haven't introduced necessarily, like, who you are, why you're here, other than being single straight Black men learning. But yeah, introduce yourself, please.
Yeah, my name's Shayne. I'm 29, live in San Francisco, straight male, as we've already been able to very comprehensively cover. Worked in tech previously, all the things. I'm also, in addition to being Black, I'm also Hispanic as well too. And I grew up raised culturally Hispanic by my mom.
If it's one thing a mixed boy's gonna do, is let you know what he's mixed with in the first 10 minutes.
Don't make me whip out the 23 in me. It goes, there's more than that.
Don't do it. Wait, Hispanic Haumst. Haumst, are you Hispanic?
All right, so, okay. I never really questioned why. My mom is very light complected from Guatemala. I never questioned why. I mean, the only people I know from Guatemala, her side of the family, but it turns out there's some indigenous Guatemalan there, but there's also Spanish there for reasons that you could probably infer that happened a long time ago. Some forced breeding, you could say. So I got some of that blood in me. I didn't learn that till last year. It was like the shock of my life, honestly.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for sharing more about your background with us. Completely, like, it was solicited, but you didn't have to. And that's why I appreciate you. It might help other people connect. As you living yourself, how do you envision healthy partnership? Like, you single still?
Yeah, I'm still single right now. But healthy partnership.
I know that straight men like to be applauded for everything that they do and are. So
oh my gosh.
We're here to balance the books and encourage you, King. No, but yeah, talk to me. How do you envision healthy partnership?
It really, I think a lot of it comes down to that communication. It's so cliched, but there's a lot of things that feed into healthy communication. That has to do with value alignment, just general perspective, sometimes senses of humor, communication pattern. There's all these different dimensions that you kind of have to get aligned to, or at least somewhat aligned, to have this relationship or partnership really work out in a way that's fruitful. Just as me reflecting on times where it didn't go well, and there was a fundamental misalignment that I try to force or sort of wish away or ignore, and then eventually it just manifests in some insidious ways.
That's unsettling.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no kidding.
I remember in listening to your story, like that fundamental difference, it'll really make or break the relationship. For me, I think I began to share with people on this journey, but my very first relationship had a fundamental difference of, did you hear that? That was the ghost of my ex's past. The fundamental relationship difference was political, and it was more so political outlook, right? It's not a sheer party situation. People love for it to be that binary and easy, but it was that I was the type of person who likes to like dismantle and tear down, or I was growing into that type of person young. I was discovering myself. The type of person who wants to tear things down, see them rebuilt. I want equity, not equality. And he was kind of like a status quo, don't rock the boat. The way things are is the way. I was like, oh, but we didn't know that about each other until much later, because we grew up as people at the same time as like growing in the relationship.
Right.
What had been, oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, because there's a lot of things that feed into that misalignment, right? So that's where you start looking into, okay, what part of your life or what aspects of your life led you to this? And you start reading that backwards, and you're like, oh, okay, like we were probably never meant to be together, because you just come from this other place and you've been harbored by that, and you just like have decided to latch onto that and make that who you are. And it's just like, that's a lot of stuff to undo. So it's nothing personal at that point, basically. It's just like, there's nothing that could have been done.
No, yeah. But that's kind of freeing too, like a nice, easy break, a clean split. Because I think there are some people that go, oh, well, the reason we broke up is, I want to live in this city. She wants to live in that city. Like one person could have caved sometimes, and then they end up stalking each other on Instagram. But speaking of how you date, talk to us now. How long have you been single?
I've been single for about almost a year now, I'd say. It's been about a year. The last relationship I had, though, and the reason why I think my perspective changed a lot, was far and away the healthiest, best relationship that I've ever had. And a lot of that was because we just...
A man speaking positively on his ex, love to see it.
Yeah, somewhat different worlds, but still very similar people, sense of humor, a general outlook. We got along well, we communicated really well. I felt that having that part of my life taken care of, honestly, because I've been single for so long before and after, but having that part of my life taken care of for that portion of time, I was probably at my best across other aspects of my life, just because I wasn't like wasting energy into stuff that wasn't really giving energy back to me. Yeah. Or, just out there in the ether doing whatever like that. So, at work and with my family, my friends, everything was on point. I was like, this is great. We eventually reached a point where it was like, okay, we can't continue this. There's some details there that I don't really want to give out too much, but
that's fine.
But it was good to have that experience, because like, oh, that's possible. It's just like that is possible out there. And it wasn't with somebody who I would have. I think it's where people get in their own way, where they have to be this, that, this, be affiliated with that, go to this type of school, work at this kind of job, blah, 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 blah.
That's unsettling.
You're just attacking me right now. I'm in this picture and I don't like it.
They go through this checklist, though, which is, it's good to have that to filter things out of what you would like. But at a certain point, it's like
hardballing.
Right. At a certain point, it's like, how do you feel with that person, though? Do you feel like you are cared for? Do you feel like you're heard? Do you feel safe with them emotionally to share certain things, to bring up stuff that bothered you? All this stuff. There's like so much more beyond that, though, right? So, I'm at a place now where I kind of know what that feels like. And I think that's kind of raised my standard now, where it's like, I don't think I want anything that doesn't make me feel that way.
Yes, nothing less than that, which is that the flirt. Yep. I like that. I like that you started somewhere. I don't know if that was your first relationship, but at least your recent history started somewhere healthy. So you know what healthy looks like, feels like, tastes like, sounds like, and you're like, I just want to get back to that, just in a different human being form.
It's just
right?
so nice to know, like, oh, that's possible, you know, like
Yeah.
it is possible out there, and it's pretty cool. It's like a light shone on me. I was like, all right, I'm cool
love
now.
that. That's uplifting. I think there's a lot of pessimism, and we talked about this in the Hopeless Romantic Society episode. But the dating pool, when people say it has piss in it, I've been saying the dating pool doesn't have piss in it because people are low quality people, right? Kevin Samuels, who you haven't heard of prior to this interview, funny enough, Kevin Samuels, was talking about high quality, low quality men. There are not low quality people that are making the dating pool piss. The dating pool is piss, urine, because there are a lot of pessimists in it who are pissing on dating, who are just like, oh, dating sucks. Dating is so difficult. You can't find anybody. The apps are awful, blah, blah, blah. And that just reinforces, I feel like, a negative environment. How do you date? Like, where do you run into people?
Yeah, so it's funny you mentioned dating apps because I recently just, like a few months ago, I just stopped using them.
You took a pause. That's good. Talk to me.
It's not, yeah. It's not because I don't believe in them or I don't think that, whatever. Like, I don't think they're valuable or anything. It's not because of that. It's just because, man, I have been on them boys for years. You know what I'm saying? And I think if you're on it for
Pause.
yeah,
Matt,
if you're
he's been single for 1 year, but he says that he's been on dating
aggregate
apps for multiple
years.
years.
Aggregate
Therefore,
years.
we can only assume that he was on dating apps during his last relationship. Was this the reason for the relationship's demise? Is that why you don't want to talk about it?
No, absolutely not. When I was with her, I was like, this is my
Women in
girl.
STEM.
This is my baby. Everybody knows it. I ain't talking to nobody else.
Just messing with you for comedic value.
But with the apps, so yeah, because it's just like, I mean, if you're on that shit for too long, you stare too far into the abyss, it starts looking back at you. I just found myself just routinizing it too much. It just became so routine, and yeah, I don't know. I just kind of needed more space to sort of chill for a bit and kind of breathe out, and it helps too because then you start. I mean, for me personally, I don't struggle with walking up to somebody and talking to them in public if I'm interested in them. Like I'm not afraid to just go say what's up. Like, hey, how are you doing?
That's a male privilege.
Well, I feel like a lot of it too is I used to work in sales, so you get rejected all the time, calling people saying, "Hey, you want to talk to me?" They say, "Hell no." So
not you treating it like a job. I love it. Keep going.
You'll be surprised how many times during sales trainings they're like, "Oh, it's just like dating." And that would always make me squirm. I know. I just be like, dude, like, can we not?
That's unsettling.
I know it is, but it happens a lot. But yeah, so I'm not really afraid of that. So I'm kind of just leaving myself open to that possibility now, like that serendipitous interaction. I'm pretty cool with being alone. I live alone, so I'm just I'm chilling now, focusing on myself.
Yeah.
The classic euphemism for I'm lonely, but I don't want you to know it.
I'm lonely, but I don't want you to know. So you hop off these apps. Did you go, where am I running into partners next? Like, if I'm not on the apps, how am I meeting prospects? That's what you call them in sales, right? If I'm not on the apps, how am I prospecting? Yeah, so where are you running into people?
Yeah, so that's just, right now.
The reason I ask you, right now, because the reason I ask is straight women will often go, where are these men? And then a social media trend will come up where people be like, sis, they're at the gym. Sis, they're at Trader Joe's. Sis, they're, and like people just start like.
Yo, how did you just name my top two? What?
Oh, is that your top two? Is that where people can find you? Is it the gym and TJ's?
Okay, the gym, that one's pretty easy. I think what helped a lot too was when I was working at a big company, there's just a lot of people there who don't necessarily overlap their work streams with you, or even offices sometimes. They notice you, they ping you about something unrelated, you can kind of pick it up, and like stuff like that.
I'm sorry,
happens.
you were macking at work? Talk about it.
I was being macked. I wasn't macking anyway.
You were consistently, they were shooting at you, you were Mary J. Blige ducking them, or you were like, nah, sure. Yeah,
I'm just saying that's a channel. That's a channel. That's
wow.
That was
so
there
did you have your workplace picture all you know what I'm saying?
Let's see.
up?
Let's see how many times. I feel like people only update it usually when they start their profile. But I think I updated mine like 3 times. Every time I got a new picture I thought was fire, I was like, I gotta add this. Got to. I mean, how could you not? Come on.
At work. No, I mean, I like it because at least you're running into like, what do you call it? You know, we're talking about income equality. We've been talking a lot. But that you run into people who perhaps it's like, okay, we've got a shared company culture. Maybe we're both invested in like the mission and vision. There's at least easy common ground to start with. So dating people at work was not, you know, not off the, what is it? Give me another straight male saying. Not off the
table.
Not off the table. Dating people at work is not off the table.
Well, because it's like, it's all heuristics at the end of the day, right? And it's stupid, and like everyone acknowledges.
Explain heuristics for people who don't know heuristics.
Heuristic is like a mental shortcut that you can take using one piece of information to imply a lot of other information about somebody, right? So in this case, would me, a black male, be able to walk up to some of these people on the street and talk to them if they didn't know I worked at where I worked? Probably not. It's just a heuristic to overcome is that, oh, you work here, which means that I think that you're as smart as I am or responsible as I am. And you blah, 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 you make this, you know, all those things come with it. Right. So it just makes that a lot easier of a situation where now you can just talk and see if you connect as people because you kind of can assume a lot of that stuff. I'm not saying I agree with it or that it's right, but that's just the game we're playing. That's the meta. I don't know how else to say it, how to describe it.
No, you're very right. Because I did that, and that was a mistake I made. I talked about this a bit with Hardball in the last episode, but I would kind of take where somebody worked or where they went to school early on in the game and be like, oh, that means that they're like a well-adjusted enough human being to get into this institution, right? Or if he works here, his interests are blah, 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 he must be smart. It's like somebody's categorical interests say almost nothing about how they're going to treat you in a romantic or monogamous type partnership situation. Somebody, you know, graduating from Yale or Stanford or Berkeley says nothing about if they're going to be on time for the first date or if they're going to know how to act if your mama's around. You know what I'm saying? Like, so there were some mistakes made, I think, with my own heuristics because I was like, yeah, if they come from these like private institutions or Ivy League institutions, if they have these types of jobs, that's the type of guy I want to be with. And it, ended up being very, very false. Or even when we say we want someone like us, like you're out here dating other techies. I don't know if that's ever gotten suffocating for you. When I was kind of, when I'm looking into like actors or entertainers or anybody in the like entertainment space, none of that ever worked out. Other public figures or people who had, you know, reasons to have both public and private accounts and people who also had reasons to have assistants. Like I just wasn't necessarily hearing back from or engaging with those guys. Whereas I thought, oh yeah, we're both, and we're gonna be the next Russ and Sierra, right? Like I'm the entertainer, he's a football player. This could be.
I'm saying
absolutely not. And the person I ended up with was a software engineer, which was, you know, the right fit for me. But
I mean, it sounds nice. It could be complimentary potentially, you know, if you keep going with this heuristic train. But see, at the very least, it could be a good starting point, right? Like it's a good like starting point. Then you kind of investigate the mechanisms behind the whatever. So did you go to Yale because you wrote a good essay and you stayed focused in school when you were in an underserved area? Or was it your birthright and you grew up in a wealthy family and went to charter schools your whole life or boarding schools? Yale? Right. And it's like, neither of those is good or bad. It's just different. And my personal path is more the former. So I can't relate to that latter path. Like I didn't have that and they probably can't relate to me either. Or they're, you know, maybe that has to do sometimes too. Or if someone seems more rock the boat type, they've always been in the boat. They were never drowning. They were never the people. They don't have that sort of frustration and that anger that you get from living in that environment and actually waking your way through it. So if you can't connect with them there, it's just like, well, you probably will never feel this way. Like you'll never understand how I feel because you weren't there. And that's not a good or bad thing. It's just different.
That's just the way it is.
What's something that people don't understand about single, straight Black men? What are you struggling with that you just really would love to get out and you want to let people know your side of the story because you are so disadvantaged and so much in life?
Exactly. You know, that's the thing. I think there's like degrees of which a man can be traditionally masculine, right? So straight men are kind of on like a spectrum, you could say, if there is one, of like masculine versus feminine, if you want to get into that dichotomized world. I grew up in a very matriarchal family. So my mom was a single mom, I had aunts and grandmas. So and my sister's my closest relative. So, or I'm closest to her in terms of our relationship with siblings. So I just grew up around women my whole life, basically. So not to get too sort of prescriptive in terms of like what's this or what's for that, but I definitely consider myself a lot more on the sensitive side of things. I'm more touchy feelings and more in tune with my emotions, and I take that a lot more seriously. So I don't like discard my emotions. I try to talk about them, and really, I'm a very emotional, expressive person, and I've always had the space to be that way. So it's been weird. Even I also sometimes can't connect to other straight men because they were raised in maybe a more stoic environment where you don't show emotion and you bottle stuff up and you don't tell your friends you love them. And men are supposed to be like this, right? Like I didn't grow up in that rigid environment. So there's a spectrum there. So someone assuming that I'm like that other person that I just described, like you're kind of setting yourself up for failure for me, or at least a rude awakening. And I get that. Again, it's back to heuristics. People assume things because I'm black that I'm going to be a certain way, or if I'm Hispanic, be a certain way. And I just grew up in a pretty different environment. So that's it. There's just different degrees of straight men, I guess you could say.
And you assumed that we wouldn't understand that we wouldn't get that. So you decided to mansplain it to us?
No, it's not that I don't think people understand that. I think that it doesn't come to mind initially.
You're taking me way too seriously. Oh, God, bless your heart. Okay, no. The emotional sensitivity just jumped out. I love that. I was being totally sarcastic. People say I need to work on my sarcasm. It doesn't come out.
It's hard on video.
It's really tough.
It's
you
tough.
were like, look at him drinking water. We got him scared.
That's unsettling.
This is good. No, I appreciate what you shared, though. Black men are not a one-size-fits-all. Masculinity is obviously a spectrum, just like sexuality or probably anything else. Within this, have you found moments where women that you've dated have expected more masculinity from you? And how does that manifest?
Yeah, it does. I think it's people from more traditional backgrounds, you can say, who say things like, "Oh, man's supposed to do this," or "You're supposed to do that because you're a man," and etc. Or like just certain gestures that don't normally come top of mind that they probably expect just because of the background they came from, and it's like,
is it like you didn't walk on the side of the street with the cars on it and she got pressed?
Hell no, I always do that one. Come on now.
Okay, so what gestures are we talking about? I like to give the people tangible examples, because as we're listening, it's like a lot of people speak in abstractions about dating, but I think it really hits home for people when we like name out specific things that have happened to us or that we struggle with.
So I think like the main one is that like the man's supposed to sort of propose any idea to hang out, or like they're supposed to take the initiative every single time they want to see the woman. And I think that was it's like, you're the guy, so you have to ask me out, or you have to ask me if you want to see me, or you have to like ask that. And I'm like,
that's unsettling.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, I'm not going to do that.
Like every single time. So this person
every conversation,
never reciprocated.
Everything had to be initiated by me, because that's what the men are supposed to do.
And it's not quote unquote wrong, right? Because that woman will surely find somebody who initiates every single conversation, who feels comfortable playing that role. It's not wrong. But I think we, as straight women, can do a disservice when we expect a man to do all of the lifting in any category, right? Like deep in partnership, I'm now finding moments where I'm like, okay, like I'm going to do, I don't know, if we're hanging out or we're traveling together, I'm going to do a bit more scheduling here, right? I'm going to do a bit more scoping and scouting. I'm going to figure out what's a good moment for rest for both of us because we haven't plugged it in. We lean on each other in adult tasks such as messaging and scheduling. And I just wish we'd all kind of grow up a little bit and not necessarily assume that your lack of messaging or contacting or initiating conversation equals they are completely uninterested in me, or they're not a person worth dating. It's like, so because they don't message you every single morning, and if you want to be messaged every single morning, you also have to say something. Like, did this person communicate that to you up front, or is it something that came out later? Like, oh, I expected you to do everything.
Yeah, it came out later in like a rather sassy tone. That's the thing though too, is that like a lot of these preferences seem to come out late
Much
and
later.
in like a rather charged way too. So it's like, damn, like you'd be some, you get surprised sometimes the way people react to certain situations when certain topics are brought up, and it's like, whoa, like I didn't know you.
I had no idea.
I didn't know it was like that. Like, damn, sorry.
One thing is, I think we're living in our own head a lot with dating. So we've got our preferences, we've got our tastes, we've got our little flavors, and we go, ooh, like I want this world. I want this partner. I want it to feel like this, taste like this. It shouldn't be this, and it will be this. And then we're walking and like imposing that on another person as if they like understand everything we
Yeah,
decide. You know, like they understand what we've been living with and working with. You've been single for a year. You like your space. You like your solitude. You're a bit more on the sensitive side. You got a matriarchal family structure. Like, and live with all of these facts about yourself. The woman that you're interested in doesn't. And if you get lazy or you forget, like, ooh, I got to keep communicating that, every time you reset to a new dating partner, you got to tell the story again. Every single person is brand new to you. Every single person doesn't know you. They don't know what you love, what you hate, and you have to re-instruct, and that takes energy.